Well before countless advanced technology firms populated what we now call the information superhighway, there was the smokestack highway. The companies along this road were chiefly manufacturing. They contributed to regional economies, and states competed fiercely for their jobs, tax dollars, and capital investment. In the last decade, as advanced technology firms have proliferated and become the target of state marketing budgets, the competition for these service-oriented industries with their campus-like settings and clean product and beneficial economic impact has become white-hot.
It is entirely possible that the semiconductor industry alone will double in size to $200 billion by the end of the century, and the industry will need to find regions that can support that kind of growth.
Virginia, for example, is already home to over 1,100 advanced technology firms. Recently, the state boosted itself into the company of high-tech hotspots such as California, Oregon, Texas, and New Mexico, with the announcement that Motorola and IBM Toshiba will be making a combined $7 billion investment. The business press has dubbed Virginia the Silicon Dominion, and this investment means jobs.
I'm pleased to announce that in 1994 and 1995, a net gain of 151,800 new jobs were created.
Every state has an interest in improving the quality of life for its residents. The economic base a major company can provide can dramatically improve the character of a region. With that in mind, the states that focus first and best on targeting high-tech jobs for the future will win the race down the information superhighway. This is Randy Davis reporting.
To grant tax relief to Virginia's coal industry, Randy Davis reports from Richmond.
The specter of regionalism has reared its ugly head again here at the General Assembly. This time, it's the old-fashioned values of the Southwest Virginia coal miners against the high-tech industrial pockets of Northern Virginia. House Majority Leader Dick Cranwell of Roanoke wants the Assembly to grant 5 years of tax credits worth $188 million to coal mine operators. He says the credits are needed to help a dying industry save itself. And he thinks it's only fair that the rest of the state should help those in the coal fields of the Southwest.
All we want you to do is do what's fair. If you do what's fair, you'll help a dying industry try to save itself. It may not work, and it may not help, but a lot of people have stopped along the road as good Samaritans to try to help a person who was injured and dying. Did they keep going because they looked and they said, this person might die? No, they stopped and they got out. This is your all's chance to be a good Samaritan and help us just a little bit.
Cranwell pleaded his case in person before the Finance Committee because he thought there would be a lot of opposition. After his impassioned testimony, Democrats and Republicans from all over the state joined his cause.
Throughout Virginia, we're concentrating on the new technologies. We have fallen in love with high tech. We want computer programming everywhere. We want people to work in lab coats and eat in fast food restaurants. We want all those things that bring forth 6 lanes of highways full of BMWs and live in high-rise apartments and own condominiums. That may be all well and good in Alice's land, but not in the real world. We've got to have jobs somewhere.
I ask every senator sitting here today, how would you like it if you picked up your newspaper and read that you lost 4,000 jobs within your county or the Senate district that you represented? How could you go home and say that you took no legislative action to correct that remedy? What we're asking for is help to get over the threshold to the point where we can diversify the economic base, to where the point where we can bring in industry to where people have other alternatives for jobs. We know that's coming, but we need help immediately.
In the end, only one committee member voted against the bill, Fairfax Senator Joe Gartlett.
That is a short-term Band-Aid type of treatment of a problem that will not go away, will only be temporarily alleviated, and will remain for the General Assembly to deal with in the future. I think we could better put that money, the revenue loss that will create, to initiating really serious economic diversification efforts and development efforts in Southwest.
Why were you out there by yourself? What for?
I didn't expect that I was going to be.
I'm Randy Davis for Virginia Legislature Capital Events.
The Senate debated bills on Virginia's initiative for welfare, for employment, not welfare. Randy Davis has that report.
Last year, the General Assembly passed welfare reform legislation, which makes able-bodied mothers work at least 8 hours a week before receiving benefits. This year, a Senate committee approved a change that would allow those 8 hours to be spent in a classroom instead of in the workforce. When the bill reached the Senate floor, it ran into a group of Republicans determined to retain the work ethic.
That if we were serious about welfare reform that we proposed a year ago, we can't chip away at it during this session of the General Assembly by taking away parental responsibility, which we debated yesterday, or by eliminating these work requirements, which were the very foundation upon which that welfare reform bill was built.
Fairfax Democrat Janet Howell cited the case of a young mother who's already going to school full-time and trying to raise a family.
When is she going to have time to be the good mother we want her to be? How are we going to let her, when she's in school and working and taking care of the household, be the mother? This, to me, is unbelievably short-sighted to say that education isn't sufficient. I can tell you, as somebody who is in school without kids, that can be full-time. But when you start mixing requirement to work with requirement to go to school with requirement to be a good mother, you are asking a heck of a lot of some people.
Norfolk Senator Yvonne Miller said a lot of welfare mothers are already working at home.
Any person who has ever raised a child will say to you that that is work of the hardest kind. That's much harder than 8 hours on anybody's job. That's work that is a 24-hour-a-day assignment. If you have ever taken care of a child 2 weeks, 24 hours a day, I think some of the arguments put forth would be withdrawn. I would certainly hope that my colleagues who are fathers on the other side of the aisle would relieve their wives for 2 weeks, and for 2 solid weeks do nothing except take care of children, and then come back to this body and say that taking care of children, going to school, is not work.
Apparently, those intent on true welfare reform are not about to let any of the current requirements be compromised. This attempt failed on a vote of 19 to 20. I'm Randy Davis for Virginia Legislature Capital Events.
The Virginia Senate passed a bill that requires the parents of minors seeking abortion to be notified prior to the procedure. After having been killed in committee earlier in the session, the anti-choice forces amended parental notification onto a bill about the status of mental health for minors. Randy Davis reports from Richmond.
6 Democratic men joined with 19 Republican men to pass the bill. All 7 of the Senate's women voted against it, including Republican Jane Woods of Fairfax. As passed, the bill would require doctors to notify a minor's parent, guardian, grandparent, or adult sibling living with her at least 24 hours before performing an abortion. Opponents called it a sad day.
It's a really sad day for Virginia women that the Senate men only were so punitive. It's really sad. What do they fear? What do they fear? They're not protecting abused women. They're not protecting women, daughters of alcoholic parents. I think we don't doubt for a moment that next year the Senate will try to restrict abortion for all women. They've succeeded this year in restricting abortion for teenagers.
I think it's a really sad day for the daughters of Virginia. We have now tried to legislate family relations, and we cannot do that in all honesty. We might wish that every girl is in a nurturing, caring, loving family, but that's not the situation. So now we've put a young girl who feels she cannot go home to her parents, and it's only parents that can make these decisions in the situation of taking perhaps some drastic measures.
But supporters, including Governor Allen, said it's a great day because the voice of the overwhelming majority of Virginians has finally been heard.
Well, I frankly think it is a good day for Virginia families. I heard the rhetoric on the Senate floor, and I understand where many of these people are coming from, but I believe this is a victory for the families of Virginia. I really do.
I am a mother of a girl who's about ready to become a teenager. That is very important to me that I am involved, if that would ever be the case in her life. As a woman, I support this. As a pro-family person, I support this. I think it's a wonderful day for Virginia.
Well, I'm very pleased, and I think it points out what we've said all along, and that is that if we could get this bill to the floor of the Senate, we'd have a good majority on passage, and we did. It was a good bipartisan vote, 25 to 15. And I think Virginia is now on its way and joining the ranks of the majority of other states in the nation who have a parental notification law.
And it's a wonderful victory for the families of Virginia. I mean, this has been a 17-year battle. It began in 1979, and here we are. It's a great day for Virginia. Our prayer now is that it holds when it goes to the House. There are all kinds of things, you know, that they might try.
The amended bill still has to pass the House of Delegates, and there will probably be some opposition, but most feel it has passed its last roadblock and will be signed into law by Governor Allen. I'm Randy Davis for Virginia Legislature Capitol Events. Governor Allen has announced that damage across the Commonwealth from last week's weather and floods has topped $120 million, and is expected to go even higher. The governor and the Federal Emergency Management Agency signed a cost-sharing agreement for federal disaster relief. Washington normally provides 75% of emergency aid, with the rest coming from the state.
There's more than 1,200 homes that have been destroyed or damaged. There's over 100 roads, secondary roads, that are still closed. Many more were damaged. The cost of lives, as I said earlier, cannot be calculated. But believe me that the personal and community involvement in this, the commitment to helping out our friends, is what brought everyone together.
19 state localities have been declared disaster areas by President Clinton. 2 other counties, Powhatan and Goochland, requested government help in cleaning up roads and public buildings. The federal agency is coordinating its Virginia effort from a new office in Lynchburg. 8 offices were also located in Madison and Rockbridge counties. The governor has also signed a proclamation making this a Commonwealth Week of Prayer, saying Virginians facing disaster are asking for divine assistance. For the Virginia Capitol News Report, I'm Randy Davis. I'm Randy Davis with Capitol Update. The Lake Gaston Pipeline project was put on hold today, and opponents hope it never becomes a reality.
We don't have the Atlantic Ocean and the James River and the Elizabeth River and the Back Bay to draw water from and to desalt, but they do. So they're creating for themselves an ace in the hole, so to speak.
In other news, Governor Allen today signed an agreement with federal officials that will bring much-needed relief to victims of last week's floods.
We are asking Virginians not to think that just signing this partnership agreement with the Federal Emergency Management Agency is all that needs to be done. We need volunteers, especially skilled labor, we need materials, we need money, we need time, and we need folks all working together to help out lend a hand to folks across Virginia.
From Richmond, I'm Randy Davis with Capitol Update. Joining us now in the studio to talk about the project is political analyst Jay Shropshire. Thanks for being here, Jay. How much politics has gone on behind closed doors, and how much politics has affected this decision?
Well, you know, I can remember about 12 years ago when they were debating the Lake Gaston issue, and I can remember staying on the floor when I worked in the Senate then. They really fought over it in the Senate, and they fought over it in the House, so it's nothing new. Everyone knows the issue. I mean, it's very simple, very clear. What's happened is the localities are at each other, and plus you have the lawyers making enormous legal fees off this, and as long as this continues, the meter's running, and I'm not talking about the water meter.
Mm-hmm. Have the public had enough opportunity to give their input into it? And
Well, you know, you take in the area of the state I'm from, in Martinsville, we had a delegate up there, a couple of delegates up there, and a senator to get 15,000 petitions signed saying that you didn't want water transferred from the Roanoke Basin down to Virginia Beach. Well, what could those 15,000 citizens really do? They could of course sign a petition, but do you think they really understand what it really means in reality? I doubt it very seriously. But what they did was the political figures up there made it a real political issue in its campaign season. Down in Virginia Beach, on the other side, the people that actually want the water, they've had the same issue going for 12 years too. And so I read in the paper recently that Virginia Beach alone had spent in the last, I think, 10, 12 years, $6.5 million on legal fees alone. Forget everything else. So is it politics as usual? Yes, on both sides.
How much does the upcoming election season have to do with this? And would it be easier if it was at a different time?
Well, see, when they somewhat postponed it, it's not an issue, really, this election season. And so what did they do? The governor said, yes, I'll call the session, but you can only take up Lake Gaston. The Democratic leadership said, yes, we'll take up Lake Gaston, but we want other issues to be brought up, too. They may have tampered a little bit with the prison system or something like that, and the governor's afraid of that. And so who lost? The people lost. Whether you're for it or whether you're against it, you had the perfect time a couple weeks ago to debate it, once and for all. And so by doing what they did, saying we can't come to agreement on what we can take up, you don't have to take it up till next January for all practical purposes. And so what did it do? It got the Republicans and Democrats, anybody with opposition, off the hook for another 6 months anyway.